think that speaking is about following a script, about saying a set of preset words, is that any time you try to work from a script, it tends to flatten out your delivery, and you often lose the inflection that's very important on any one given word, where, as you can see, can often completely change the meaning of what it is you have to say. So inflection's a good thing. Changes in pitch and tone is a good thing. It helps to show passion, helps to keep interest up. It's very difficult to use a lot of tone and inflection if you're trying to deliver a preset set of words. It's real important that when everything we talk about, using gestures and getting this passion out, the fact that people only are ever inspired by the passion behind what you say, it's very difficult to have passion with a script. What you really want to do is you want to approach virtually every presentation as if you've never seen it before. I go to places all the time, work in hotels, give speeches, and they always leave me a podium because they assume that podiums are good things. The trouble with podiums is podiums go back to that Winston Churchill type era. Podiums are not basically a good thing because podiums tell the audience exactly what you don't want to tell them, which is, okay, there will forever be this barrier between me and you. And that's what a podium does. Think about this. This is my little castle, isn't it? This is mine. I've got this turret here where I can fire off stuff at you all. But I'm protected, you know? If you're going to hit me, I've got this. No, it's really true. So we set up this, we tell the audience that I'm going to be behind, there's forever going to be this barrier between me and you. You're you, I'm me, never the twain shall meet. Podiums tend to really work against this connectivity that you want to establish with your audience if you want to be effective. Just a little bit on organization, on putting a presentation together in a way that can help people follow it and also, again, make sure they're engaged. Anybody here listen to WIIFM? Right, most listened to radio station in the world. In fact, it's the only thing your listeners are ever listening to. What's in it for me? That's what people want. So, rule number one when you're putting together your presentation is, again, you've got to step out from behind your computer, go back and look at the screen, and ask yourself, as a member of the audience, would you find something of real benefit there? And if not, then it probably doesn't belong in your presentation. You know, it's very fashionable these days to use words like death by PowerPoint, to PowerPoint poisoning. It's fashionable to trash PowerPoint, say that it is the bane of civilization. The reality is that PowerPoint is actually a very useful tool for creating true knowledge transfer. The problem with PowerPoint is that nobody ever gets taught how to use it correctly. PowerPoint's one of those programs that you actually can hand to somebody and they know how to use the software in a very short period of time. And because of that, corporations have thought, okay, we're not going to pay people to learn how to do something that you can do in an afternoon. But the problem is learning how to use the software and learning how to create these living, moving documents that have a very specific purpose, which is getting across information in a limited and set period of time, is something that, well, none of us are taught. And the assumption that you can simply pick up a copy of PowerPoint and write a presentation is the same as assuming that if you got a copy of Microsoft Word, you could write the great American novel. Well, tell me this. After the, say, the title slide, the slide that's up on the screen as people walk into the room, after that slide, can anybody give me the name of the first slide in most presentations? Agenda. Yeah, we start out with the agenda slide. We start out with the introduction. Hi, we're going to start here with the introduction. That's where we are now. Yeah. And then we go on to the history slide, which I always love. The history. History is everybody's favorite subject, right? Especially history of somebody's company you don't even know. Let's talk a bit about the history of our firm. We're very proud about our history. It started back in 1920. These two guys, Harry and Bill, came together. They had a great idea. Blah, 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 talking on and on. And what happens is for the first 15 minutes of a presentation, we talk about, oh, that's right. First we start out, because we're working with that old adage, tell them how you're going to bore them, and tell them how you bored them, right? That's the agenda slide. Then we get into the history of our company, because I have to tell you all about our company. And you understand that well, you're very proud about your company. You might even be proud about the fact that you're number one in your area. We're the number one company out there. In fact, we have so many, we are number one, meaning that if you go with us as a customer, you're going to mean much less to us than you would to any one of our competitors, okay? Because we're the biggest one out there. And then what do you do? Then you get to hear, well, after you see their organizational chart, names that you've never heard of before, right? And they're all over the place. You can't possibly keep track of them. Then they go on to tell you just what a great job they've been doing with the revenues. You know, last year we were number one in our market. We took everybody else's money. This year we're after yours. And that's what we do. That's what we do. We spend presentations. The first half of a typical presentation is about me. Let me tell you about me. This is the message that we send with the typical content of a presentation. We start out talking about how we're going to bore them, and then we start immediately talking about ourselves. Well, if people are in sales, you remember from some sales training that, that's not necessarily the right way to do it, is it? That most people, most clients want to hear about them. So, first thing you need to do is when you start out, you got about 30 seconds to grab their attention. About 30 seconds, and that's about it. Understand, we live in a world of these things. We live in a world with things that look like this. They're remotes. If it's a remote for the TV, Cox Communications out of Atlanta will tell you that the average surfer, the average channel surfer on TV, gives a station, how long? 10 seconds. They give it 10 seconds watching it before they determine whether the content is worth sticking with or whether they're going to click the channel onto something else. Cox will also tell you that in a search engine, you type in a word in a search engine, site comes up. How long do you give them before you decide whether that's the site that you want to stay with or you want to move on to the next one in the list? It's 2 seconds. We give websites 2 seconds to determine whether their content is relevant, has any value to us. Well, audiences tend to give presenters a relative break. They give them about 30 seconds. You've got about 30 seconds to send to the audience the message that this is worth listening to. TV news departments have been using grabbers for decades. 10:30 at night comes on, the announcement comes on. Doctors determined that exercise is bad for you. Story at 11. But when's the story? It's typically not at 11, right? It's usually they wait. Oh, that's right. At the very last end of the news. And what do you learn? You learn that doctors noted that men over the age of 75 who have had more than 4 heart attacks should not engage in running marathons when the temperature is over 100 degrees, because it often brings on a 5th and fatal heart attack. So they've determined that exercise is bad for you. But the point is that grabber, that's what news people do, they take a fact, a true fact from the presentation, turn it around in such a way that when you hear it, you realize, well, okay, you got it, but it got you thinking. See, the agenda slide, followed by the history slide, followed by the revenue slide, is the way audiences check out within the first 2 minutes. They sit there, they hear this, and they go, my God, not this again. I've seen it, I've heard it all. They'll give you their attention for maybe the first 30 seconds before they determine whether the blackberries are coming out or you got something to listen to. And so you only have about 30 seconds to make sure that you've grabbed their attention. And that's what a grabber is all about. The purpose of a grabber is to take something out of your presentation that is indeed true and put it in a way that gets people to ask the question, what is this all about? What's going on? You can predict a specific gain. You could say something like, ladies and gentlemen, the next 45 minutes, we're going to show you how we doubled our closing ratio with just one fundamental change to the way we approached our prospects. A specific doubled, and it's got to be a big number. If you're talking about numbers, you can't say, ladies and gentlemen, the next 30 minutes, we're going to show you how you can increase your productivity up to 1.5%. Have I got you? It has to be a specific gain. It has to be of some significant value. Or you can let them in on a secret. This is, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a story that's never been told before. Everybody likes to hear stories. As a matter of fact, when it comes to content, anytime you can make your case, anytime you can figure out how to take statistics or any facts that might be otherwise dry and turn them into a story, that's where people listen. And that's a whole course by itself. But People want to be told stories. Pick up the Wall Street Journal today. Pick it up any day. Look at the left-hand column, right-hand column. Every one of them starts out back in 1985 when the internet was still the gleam in the eye of Harry Brown working in his father's warehouse. He said there had to be a better way. So we worked. You have characters, you have a problem, you have a timeline along to a resolution of that problem. Stories keep people's attention. In any case, here's what you got to do. You got to start out, tell the people what the problem is that needs to be solved, tell them what the opportunity is that they need to take advantage of. And then here's where we differ from the way we see most of them structured. Immediately, in the beginning of your presentation, you have to tell them what the solution is, or you have to make that recommendation. See, typically what people do is they'll start out and announce this problem, and then they'll start to pile on the evidence. And they'll say, and people go, oh, I didn't know that. Okay. And you give them some more evidence, they'll go, oh, I didn't know that either. Okay. And by the time they've heard the third or fourth fact, they're saying, where's she going with this? You see, what you have to do is you have to create the context. So you have to tell people exactly where you're going, what your solution is right from the start, so that as you provide this evidence, people can hear it and say, oh, I didn't know that, but, well, yeah, I guess that's right. If that's true, then that is the only solution. And then you bring in the evidence, and again, hopefully the evidence will include benefits to the audience because it's the only thing they're ever listening to. Then, at the end, and here's something, believe it or not, this is something we rarely see. At the end of a presentation, you've gotten a whole bunch of people together, you talk to them for 45 minutes, and at the end you go, thanks for listening. Bye. And we send people off. I mean, without some type of next step, some call to action. And call to action is just like you all know that's the mistake that new salespeople make is they often go out, they're great public relations people for the company, right? They sing a great song. Oh, that's right, they forgot to ask for the order. Well, having a call to action, and it doesn't have to be anything big. You just implant in their minds some future action that they have to take. So, okay, given all this, will you do me a favor? Just send me an email. Would you send me an email? Tell me the 3 different products that you're most interested in, and let me get you some samples. Let me get you some, or let me see if we can set up a demonstration for you. Just send me. You put in their minds some future event, some future action they have to take, for the sole reason of giving them some reason to think about your presentation after they've walked out the door. Otherwise, people go on in their multitasking lives. They've got all other things to think about. And this was an interesting presentation, but there is no reason beyond here to think back about what you had to say. You need to have a call to action, a next step. And then finally, if you can, you want to end with a bang. And the reason you want to end with a bang is the same reason that an Olympic gymnast goes out and flips over the bars, does all this fantastic stuff in the air. What does she have to do to earn the points? Stick the landing, exactly, end with a bang. So, as you go forth from here tonight, you will be thinking about eye contact. You'll want to be holding eye contact with people through the end of a thought. And when you do, what you'll find is although in the beginning people might, because they've been trained that way, might not look back at you, but just a few minutes into your presentation, you're going to see that people react quite differently than how they've ever reacted before. And the next time you get up to speak and you put this all together, you nail it.